Hello there, friends. It is Tuesday. It is 5:30 on the Pacific coast of the United States, where I live. This is the Two Guys Tech Homelab Hour. I am Rich, your guide, your talking head on the interwebs. Again, the chat is like right here. Whoop, look at this. That's the power of technology. I can do that. Anyway, chat's popping off. It's good to see everybody in there. Kevin, Allison, Leavix, Game Over Dave, Jason, Skura, Coral Dayton. Holy cow. Everybody's in there. Yeah, Allison, you're always up way, way too late. Just saying. Or not. Maybe it's not too late for you. Maybe it's just right. But the IT beard, I don't think I'd go that far, Leavix, but I appreciate that. I was grooming myself, as you do when you have a beard that is almost as long as your face. Anyway. It's good to be here, guys. John, it's good to have you too. That's. I don't know if that's I throw that up there, Brandon. What John said there. I don't know if that's a. Is that a compliment or is that like a? Is that a dig? I don't know. Yeah, Kevin, you too. I hope you had a great Memorial Day. I hope you all went out and bought a car or a washer and dryer or whatever the advertisements were telling you to do, because that seems to be the way to do it. Anyway. Let's do this, guys. What do you say? Let's do our first thing we do every show. Let's talk about our housekeeping. This is a live show where we talk about HomeLab. We talk about the things that I'm doing, the things you're doing. If you have questions or something like that you want to throw into the chat, toss them into the chat and we'll get to them. Brandon is, I don't know why I'm pointing down, but Brandon's in the ether. He's in the cloud. Brandon is doing the producing for this show, so he's going to press all the knobs and the buttons, and for the most part, and yeah, that's it. That's it. Oh, I get 2 plugs a show. Join our Discord. It is free. It is awesome. It's where most of these people right here in the chat are actually from. Great bunch of people. It's a place to hang out, talk about home lab, computers, technology, general nerd stuff, and just hang out with some cool ass people. I think I can say it without getting a strike on YouTube, but and you know, it's a quick way to talk to me as well as John and Brandon too. If you have questions about videos, stuff like that, or you got problems with anything that we said or did, I mean, that's a good place to hang out. And again, it's free. All right, I like to start every show with a personal story, and this one, we'll see how this one goes. But go with me here, shall we? Okay. Last week, it was like Thursday. I was in a meeting. This is day job professional Rich. Let's put professional Rich hat on. Boop, there he is for a minute. It's a little warm. It's starting to warm up out here in Oregon, so the air conditioning is fighting the heat. But last week I was in a Teams meeting and going through a rules of engagement for a pen test that I'm working on. So, and as you do when you're doing this, when you're working on the framework for a pen test, you talk about the things that you need to iron out ahead of time. Like, how are the bad guys going to get in? If they're inside the network already, or if they're, going from the outside, you got to talk about all the little nuances of, like, how do you get them access to start doing the thing? Exactly, Sakura. It's an actual icon. So we're having this conversation. I'm having the conversation between myself as the engineer architect for the company, and the third party guy who's going to be actually doing the engagement. And as we're talking, I realized that I said to him, what do you want to know? What should you know, and what should you not know? And then my brain just went click, and all of a sudden, in my head, I had this like intrusive thoughts, no, me, no, I'd never. And my this D&D phrase popped into my head, because look, I like playing D&D. I enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie. And I said to the guy, I should describe the scene. So there's like a bunch of salespeople. There's this dude, me, somebody from his company, some people from my company, and as we're talking about the logistics of the company, I said to him, before we go any further, it's kind of like D&D. And it got quiet. And I said, it's like character knowledge versus player knowledge. Again, silence. And I'm like, ooh, this is not landing. I better describe this to. And I said to him, like, it's like, the player may know things that the character shouldn't know or hasn't learned yet, and it's up to the player to play the character in a way that doesn't allude to or utilize that information. And yeah, thank you, Livix. I appreciate it. And at that moment, you could have heard a pin drop on that Teams call, and I'm like, oh boy, like did I like nobody's figured out. Like, chat, by the way, am I off here? Like, it makes sense. You might not play a D&D, but you can understand the concept of like something versus something the execution shouldn't know, right? So if I'm like talking about like how do you get into a network, he can't use that information because that's not fair. He's got to learn it, discover it. And thanks, Dave. I love this. Just a lot of like quiet in the chat, so obviously it's not landing there either. And after about what felt like a good 2 minutes of awkward silence where we're all looking in the cameras are all looking at me, the guy's like, yeah, I guess it's like that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, throwing me a bone here because I was just drowning in the awkward silence, which typically you can't. With a guy like me, I've been told that I have a few what I would call shitty superpowers, and one of those shitty superpowers is it's really hard to make me feel ashamed, for better or worse. And I felt a little bit ashamed. Like, I was like, oh boy, that just it do be like that sometimes. That is true. Anyway, that was an interesting way to end out the week, and then we had the long weekend. I hope you guys all had a long weekend break. But what's going on with my mouse there? Oh, there we go. Anyway, let's move on. I did want to give you an update because I thought of something interesting. Sakura is going to go ahead and punch me like I got done peeing on the rug. As a dog. That came out really odd. Great. That's going to be on the internet forever. Okay. Rusty, the RoboVac, is up and running, and it's doing the floors downstairs after I complained about the shark vacuum failure. Yes, I'm going to give you more inlets into my personal life. And look at these guys. Don't read the chat. That's all I'm going to say. The interesting thing I want to talk about, and this is going to be like, let's put a hat back on. Conspiracy theory Rich here. That's what this is supposed to be at the moment. They sent me a replacement base because my base for my RoboVac died. And when the base came, it was in a perfectly packed box that only had a base. And my thought was, that's weird. You have bases in boxes that like purpose built, like a packaging engineer put together the box to make sure it made it through shipping and all that stuff. But it's just the base. None of the bits and bobs, none of the filters or any of the junk that comes with the base normally, like just the base. And it got to me thinking, does that mean the company realizes that the bases fail? And fail so often that they had to have a package engineer design a bespoke package just to send another base? Anyway, that was my thought. I'm just looking at the chat over here, and I shouldn't have done that. I'm not looking at it. So yeah, like it just got me thinking. It's like, if you're going to send a box, and inside the box is like, the box has labeling on it and all that stuff, and it's just the base. There's no freshwater tank and dirty water tank and no filters. It really made me think, you obviously planned for this. This wasn't a like hastily, because I figured I'd get a base that would have all of the junk with it that you'd get, but nope, just the base. So the chat again, wonderful. There's a storage spaces conversation earlier today. I missed that. Thankfully I missed that. Let's get to the good stuff though. So yesterday I released that long awaited PBS video, Proxmox Backup Server video. And I did want to talk about it a little bit, mostly because I wanted to talk about, because we have some very dedicated PBS people, even in the chat here, but also like people who use it. And so I want to talk about things that I liked, didn't like, things that I feel like I want to call attention to, and you guys in the chat can set me straight. because that's what I like. I like when you guys are being honest with me and telling me when you disagree, because that's what this is all about, right? So just for funsies, as a background thing, you're going to watch me. Should be off. So this was the video. It went out. I want to make myself bigger. I like to be bigger. Look at that handsome devil over there. He's over. It's over there. Anyway, so here's what I think about PBS, because I have it up and running here. And by the way, that's pretty, I don't know, let me zoom in. You guys probably can't see that worth a damn because it's teeny weeny. Can you still see that? Cool. So I have this is the system that I built, right? We talked about that. It's what I used in the video. It's still actively running. By the way, I don't have any intentions to tear it down. A lot of the stuff I'll do on YouTube will be like learning about it. And then I'll end up tearing it down because I need to use the hardware for something else. But I'm going to hold on to this for a while until the wheels fall off. But PBS, here we are. We're looking at it. I thought this was hilarious. With my 81 terabytes worth of storage, I'll fill this thing in 3 years, 301 days, and 13 hours. Pretty impressive, right? But so let's talk about what I like. The first thing's I really like that it just works. I have, you know, if you are just a simple Proxmox guy who's just got Proxmox running and you want the ease of life, what Sakura said here, you also had a slip of tongue in the video, at least once calling Proxmox. I'm sorry, dude. You know how many PVEs, PBSs, PDMs there are? Like, I should have just dropped the Proxmox part of it and just called it backup server and then virtual environment and just like, it's Proxmox X. Fair point. Anyway, so it's been super reliable and you can't beat the price of free, right? But I want to caution people. So for most people, like you and I, tons of people in this chat, I can see lots of people talking in here. Like it solves the problem of needing to back up because it does LXC containers, it does the VMs, and it just doesn't care, and it does a good job. And it's obviously, you can see, we can look at my look at my dedupe ratio, 30.97. That's absurd, right? I mean, come on. Where are you going to see that elsewhere? But John asked a question: can you do Windows Agent on it? Can you tag a different data center like remote location? Like Veeam. So there is no Windows client. I did find somebody who built a Windows client on the interwebs, and it looked like it was just strung together with baling wire and duct tape, right? And so it was, it's not reliable. The thing is, and I'll get to my don't likes here because John, you're kind of like hitting on one of the things that I don't like about it. But yeah, like the chat is saying, is like it's just Proxmox backing up Proxmox, basically, right? And well, Proxmox in the sense that it's not running virtual environment, but it's such a tight integration between the two. It does a really good job. Let's go back up to the dashboard. Maybe I should make myself smaller so you can see it all. If I go to, oh yeah, I can zoom this down a little bit so it's a little more reasonable for me. Sorry, if you can't read it, I apologize. Go full screen. So yeah, to your question there, yes, I backed up Windows VMs, I backed up Linux VMs, I backed up an LXC container, which was obviously running Linux, and all of them worked fine. But let's talk about the not so great stuff, because I feel like that's something we should kind of talk about. So, it's not, flame me in the comments for this. I'm willing to accept all flames sent my direction, but I don't really feel like PBS is an enterprise backup solution. It is a bespoke, small batch, corduroy wearing, perfect solution for PvE if you have one or a couple and you just want to do it. If you want to replicate the data between backups, PBS servers to get yourself a little bit of protection, you can do all that stuff too. It does that really well, but it is not an enterprise backup solution. And let me tell you why I think it's not an enterprise backup solution. One, there is no immutability functionality built into it. That includes the ability to use, like object storage, which is kind of a big thing for immutability. I know we've got some Yeah, I know. Coral Dayton he's he might have his hat in a different camp, but we'll leave it at that. Um, okay, so there's no immutability, there's no ransomware protection in it, and I think that's and what I mean by that is not necessarily ransomware protecting the running workloads, but it's Linux in the end. It's running Linux, and the backups are on that system. They're accessible, so it's not hardened. If you had something get through to that VM or to that physical machine running PBS, your backup data is gone, right? That's just the thing. Linux ransomware exists. And the other thing that no one talks about, and maybe Coral Dayton can allude to this too, because he's in a different camp, but it's as if application awareness is just not a concept that exists for PBS. And application awareness is one of those things. That's fair. Sakura said, if you want hardened, run something else. I don't think that that's necessarily fair. You should be able to have the cake and eat it too. Being able to target like an object storage would save you that problem, right? But then I'm sure that there's John Harrison, I'm not sure you're mentioning if you're talking about PBS or if you're talking about Veeam or something, because Veeam will target object storage all day long, whether it's there's a lot of third-party immutability products out there that use object storage, but and the immutability. I'm bouncing back around because I'm reading the chats here, but the application awareness thing is one thing that really confuses me, because application awareness, what is it? Application awareness is when your backup system has the ability to reach into a workload, a virtual machine workload, and invoke something or tickle something or be aware of what's actually running that virtual machine. And I realize it's 2025, but people still run a lot of SQL, Microsoft SQL, on premise. And Microsoft SQL creates transaction logs, right? Those transaction logs, they're non-committed database data. That's what a transaction log is. Those T logs need to be truncated and then pushed into the database. And depending on how big your SQL server is, what it's doing, one of the key things that you get with application awareness is that before a backup kicks off, or in a regular interval when you're doing regular backups, you can just say, truncate those T logs. And then the SQL server will truncate that data and shove it into the database. And then you can do a backup with the virtual machine. And then your data is safe. And if the machine dies, well, then it's only the T logs that are hanging out there. But Sakura is really, throw that up there, Brandon. Yes, you are right, sir. We should all pay for what we benefit from. I agree. And I'm just kind of surprised that it doesn't offer. Your understanding of why PBS doesn't offer it is because PBS is only operating at the hypervisor level and doesn't have any. That could be, but you have, well. Although I will say, Coral Dayton, it does have the VirtIO drivers and VirtIO stuff in there, and third parties like Nutanix and others that are using KVM also use the same driver sets, and you have that application awareness from the hypervisor, so it's got to be there. So, I wonder if that's necessarily the case. It could be, but take a step back. Like, if that's not the case, then that's an action item for Proxmox Server Solutions, PSS for PVE, to get figured out so that they can offer that, because that's kind of a key thing, I think, that it needs. And so that application awareness, even okay, in all fairness, if they had an actual Windows client, they could do the application awareness via the virtual machine workload itself. Like Veeam can do that as well. There's a lot of components to it, but it's a key thing. And then the one thing, and Brandon wrote this in the show notes, and I'm interested to know what you guys think here. It's not backing up PVE at all, right? And so, which I feel like this is a double-edged sword, but like, obviously it's doing your virtual machine workloads, your LXC container workloads, it's backing all this stuff up, but the configuration of Proxmox itself is just on the file system. Don't you think it could benefit from backing up your PVE server as well? I think that on the flip side, the other side of that argument is that, if you look at VMware ESXi or other hypervisors out there, they're kind of considered almost ephemeral in a sense. Like, what do I mean by ephemeral? I mean like they could die, they could blow away, but you could always just instantly rebuild them, add them to a cluster, they'll get their configs, and poof, they're up and running and they join. Like, that's actually one of the, not a fan of VMware, not anymore anyway. But like one of the things you could do is you could pixie boot a ESXi host. It would pull its config, join the cluster in an on-demand sense, get its workload, start working, and then when you didn't need it more, you could just dump it and drop it. And that's that was so yeah. Yeah, Mr. Keck said, been wishing for PvE hosting. Coral Dayton said, general rule of thumb is that you don't back up the hypervisor host, only the VMs. Even if Hyper-V, you just leave it. Yeah, I know. Again, I agree with that, but PvE feels like it's more hands-on, and there's less of an automated deployment approach for PvE as a hypervisor. Am I wrong? You can tell me in the chat. But that's from setting up PvE and using it. It's like you deploy each one, you configure each one. Is there a means of automating your PvE deployment? Probably. I mean, possibly, right? It's Linux, so there's plenty of opportunities to do so. But like, that's not an out-of-the-box sort of feature that I'm aware of. But if that was the case, then yeah, you could toss them. But yeah, look at the Coral Dayton is all over the chat tonight with these things. So you want to join our Discord and you can talk to him about backup solutions, because this man knows his backup solutions. Anyway, I don't mean to make it sound like I don't like it, because I do like it. I like it a lot, and there it is. It's still running. In fact, I couldn't be happier with it. Like, look at this thing's been churning away. Here's my content. Look at all these. You can't really see it because I've blasted the font size large enough to see it. Yeah, like Allison, this is exactly the same. Allison said, every time I do a Proxmox install, it's configured from scratch every time. And yeah. And Levick said, I think overall, all of Proxmox's offerings are great and do amazing for the HomeLab. Thank you, Brandon. But it's like undercooked bread. Well, I don't know if it's undercooked. It's like slightly undercooked, because I think it's pretty close. They need to put it back in the oven for a bit longer. Yeah. Yeah. And man, so Sakura's all of it too. Honestly, I'd rather have more hands on it than fully automated in the event that it breaks under the hood. You need to have some hand holding to find out what broke. Yeah, so we got lots of strong opinions, but it's free and it works really well for the most part. I'm not here to complain about it. In the day job, I've actually deployed a cluster of 6 of them running set up to run a bunch of workloads. It's not running enterprise stuff, but it's there. The chat is on fire tonight. But this is going to segue into an interesting thing that I wanted to show you guys. Now there's some arguments going on about British cooking, which I'm not going to touch that. I love the fact that we got international. We have people from all over the world. Anyway, so segue into the second half of the PBS thing, because I really want to talk about it, because I have some cool stuff I wanted to talk about. So, my wife came to me a couple days back and she's like, "Look at this," and I said, "What?" And she showed me my power bill. My power bill. Again, of course, there are people in the chat here who are going to have power bills way higher than mine, especially Sakura. I know he's going to have a power bill that makes mine look like meager and modest, but like all of my, a good third of my power consumption in my household is the HomeLab. So like I started thinking about like, well, what can I start shutting down? Things I don't need, but are like, I don't want to get rid of them. HomeLab's not going away. This is my hobby. This is my passion, baby. And I started to realize, okay, well, if I'm going to run backups of something like Proxmox Backup Server, or I'm going to run something like Veeam or something like that, like there's got to be a way for me to cut down on the amount of power that the system's like. My Dell R730XD is, it's not a honking beastie box. It's a couple E5 2680 V4 CPUs. It's got a couple 100 gigs of RAM. It's got like all the storage. I mean, it's an appropriately sized box, but it sits there and probably idles around 150 to 200 watts, and then probably bumps up when when the backups are churning it, storing data at the SSDs and the network. And so, but it sits there and runs 24/7. And I'm like, there's something, I gotta do something about that. I gotta find a way to automate the power control of that box, because I need it for roughly 2.5 hours a night. And the rest of the time it's not necessary. So, oh my gosh. We're calling in the Boston Tea Party here all of a sudden. So here's what I did. And here's what I want to get your guys' thoughts on. So first things first is like, I'm going to automate the shutdown and startup of this host to make things easier. And let's talk about what I came up with here. So I popped over to my Proxmox server here. I'll show you this because I wanted to show you this stuff. I'm like, okay, I need to split this into two halves. There's got to be two parts of this. And the first part being like, something has to invoke turning the power on, right? Your first action is to get the power turned on. And then the second, Sakura, my power bill was $500. So I win, I guess. Oh, speaking of that, just because I want to complain, I'm in Oregon. PGE is the name of the power company in Oregon. They are raising their rates, or they did raise our rates to 13 cents US cents a kilowatt hour. You do the math and the comparison of the countries. But when I sat down and actually took all of the fees and all the junk that they shove into the bill, I realized that my actual running rate is 20 cents a kilowatt hour. That's if you take the access fees and the government, whatever, and the green power fees, and it's just absurd. 20 cents a kilowatt hour. And I'm like, what? Okay, Allison, who's the first best power company in Oregon? That's what I want to know, because I only know of one. Yeah, like Levick said, it's all of the stuff that they add in there. It's not the cost of power that kills you. It's the fees and junk. So at 20 cents a kilowatt hour, it adds up real fast, right? And so that's the situation I'm in. Dave keeps throwing in these mini PCs. I'm getting there, Dave. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I don't want to get there, but I'm getting there. So back to this. So the idea then was, okay, I need to find a way to automate the startup, shutdown of this host. And after doing a quick little thinking, some back of the napkin math kind of thing, I came up with this solution. And it's been working now for a good solid, I don't know, I've had this thing working now for a good week, but I want to walk through what I did. So from the Proxmox server, because that is always going to stay running. The Proxmox server is running all the workloads, and it's the thing that's getting backed up, or backing itself up, as it were. And so it's the thing that's always going to be on. So because I use enterprise gear, and this is something, Dave, I can't do with the little mini PCs, I basically decided, okay, I'm going to use the IPMI tool. So installed IPMI tool on the host. That's if you can see this guy, like this is my whole thing I went through. And then I wrote a script that basically says, I have my environment variables called out for it. And then I'm like, this is the command, IPMI tool -L land plus H host, and it pulls the variables in. And then when that executes, that tells the iDRAC on the Dell R730 to start up. And then, so I saved that script. Obviously I need to make it executable so it'll actually execute. Why do you do this? That's not a link. There's no website there. And then the next thing was, okay, I need to cron job this, right? I need to set this in a cron job so that it just runs automatically every night. And so cron tab to the rescue, cron tab -E. And what I planned is this is the kludgy part, guys, because you kind of have to guesstimate how much time the server needs to come up fully online and be prepared and ready and then found in PBS and whatnot. So basically it said at 11:30. So at the 30 at 23. So 11:30, execute that script. And I wrote, so that's what it does. It executes that script at 11:30, and I get a response back saying, power up. After 30 minutes, then my backup jobs in Proxmox here. Let's go to my backup jobs. Still have just one here. At midnight, the backup jobs kick off and they run. And for the most part, they don't take more than 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes, it depends on how many workloads I'm backing up. It's about that much time. So let's say it's like 12. Let's just call it 1 o'clock. I need to be able to automate the shutting down of that. So in PBS, I also have my pruning and garbage collection jobs. I don't sync anywhere because I only have one PBS server. And I've set these like this guy kicks off at 12:45. This guy kicks off at 1 a.m. And then my verified job is just once every 30 days. And it's at 1 a.m. as well. So those kick off. I was like, okay, the next logical thing here is to, after a period of time, tell the PBS server to shut itself down, shut itself off, like should go offline, right? And basically, I came up with yet another script to do so. So let's look at that. So first things first, I decided to come up with the name. The word improved means that this is obviously not the first generation of the script, as you can imagine. But I built some logic into this because I wasn't just cool with it just shutting itself down. So, environment variables, this log file in PBS, Proxmox Backup Server, varlog proxmox-backup/tasks/active. This file is where the active tasks that are happening on PBS get listed, and they will only stay in there whilst they're active. And so I essentially said, let's have doing a search for backup_pool, which is this guy here. That's the name of my data store. So if you wanted to do this yourself, you use a different thing. And then, give it a sleep interval of, basically 5 minutes. So then it spits out some words because this gets all captured and sent to me in the log from my notifications. And then basically, search for that string. If the string exists, go to sleep. That's what all this effectively does here is if you grep and you find backup_pool in there, go back to sleep for 5 minutes, wait, and then try again. And as soon as that doesn't exist, then issue the shutdown now. And then I tested it, right? Obviously. And works perfect. So basically, if there's ever a possibility of a script overrunning, like one of these, like there's stuff here, like check it out. Like verified jobs can last long. If this verified job ran for 35 minutes. This doesn't say how long these run, but they can run for a various length of time. But the thing I was deathly afraid of is having a backup job run long or a prune or a verified job run long and then have the server just shut itself down without checking first. Shout Technologies, welcome. It's good to have you, buddy. Allison, I'm not sure I've ever heard of Salem Electric. They're slightly, I'm slightly north of them, but anyway. Jason, I didn't know you're out here in Oregon as well. Anyway, so back to this. So it checks, it does its thing, it checks, it does its thing, and when that's empty, then it issues that command. So then after save the script, change it to executable, right? Throw that in the cron job, and this one just kicks off at 2 a.m. in the morning. And again, this is not a website. You have to do that. And it works brilliantly. So now I have been able to tell myself my power bill is going to be less money, which it may or may not be, because I feel like you cannot tell if the power bill is actually less or more money because it just fluctuates. Anyway, but at least I know the server's not running for a good solid, instead of running 24 hours a day, it runs 21 and a half hours, which I think is because it starts up at 11:30 and goes to bed at 2. I think that's a solid save, right? 2.5 hours of power versus so. But I brought this all up to Brandon because I was really proud of myself. I was like, look what I did. I made this. And Brandon said, well, are you going to put that someplace for people to have? So I'll throw this question out to you guys. I don't even know if this is something that's beneficial, but it did bring up the question, like, should we make these sort of things available for people? And if so, should it be on it? Where would you guys recommend? Throw it on GitLab, something like that, a 2Guys Tech GitLab, and then put all this stuff in there. Like, let me know what you guys think something like this should go, because Sakura, you are starting to become the usually we have other trolls in the audience, but today you are the troll. So GitHub, GitLab, yeah, I think so. Yeah, and so that's we'll throw it in there. What I do in a situation like this, I say, Brandon, please make, and then Brandon says, yeah, Terry, look at him. He's like, me, I'm the troll. Hi, it's me, I'm the troll. I love it. I can always guarantee. Terry's always going to tell me about his Hyper-V. It's just purring like a kitten. I don't believe it for an instant. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get that set up. We'll get it all set up and start throwing a lot of these scripts and stuff like that. And I'll make sure that there's a README on how to do it in case it's of interest. I would really love to be able to find a way to do this with non-enterprise gear. Like, it's cheating with IPMI, right? Like, the IPMI tool just allows me to do all of these simple things because this lights out. It's always there. Makes me wonder if you could probably pull it off with, actually, I'm sure you could pull it off with something like the little things we did, the little free KVM or cheap little keyboard, video, mouse devices that are remote KVMs. Like, you could probably do it with that, but that means having an extra device. I know that some BIOS systems will have a internal clock. Yeah, Wake Online. That's a fair point, Adam. Wake Online could do it too, I suppose. Again, assuming that the hardware supports Wake Online. Jason, I'd be interested to know how you guys do it if you're using Wake Online. Yeah, a BIOS auto start would be another idea. Like, there's lots of different ways to do it. I think that of varying degree in success, because with Wake Online, you just know the MAC address, same as using your. Good ideas, guys. I love it. Maybe we'll devise scripts for Wake on LAN as well, so you don't have to be like, I have enterprise gear only. But that's a fair point. Anyway, we'll throw it on there, and I will put a link. We'll announce where it's at and all that kind of good stuff. But I don't do a whole lot of scripting, and when it works, come on. How many of you have fallen down a rabbit hole and then after about 2.5 hours later, you go, it works. It's alive. Yeah, that's how that happened. I could have been doing other things with my life. I was just like, you know what? I need to solve this. Made me feel better. It's definitely not going to save me a huge amount of money. But and the other thing I will say, just as a thing, is typically I was worried that if you look at Proxmox, like, PBS it's running right now because I wanted to be able to show it off, which is why the host is up. But like my NFS mounts and stuff like that, when NFS is broken in Proxmox, I have seen it be very temperamental. Like, it won't come back in some cases. Like, it requires a whole bunch of like jiggling knobs and keyboard warrior stuff to actually try to get a broken or a disconnected NFS mount to reactivate, right? Especially in PvE. But I will say that PBS, it can go offline and it stays offline. It doesn't care. And then it just comes back on. And so it is far more forgiving of that sort of like, I've lost my storage and it came back. So I think that's a big benefit of at least that. Yeah, exactly. Like Coral Dayton said, NFS is incredibly temperamental. And when it works, it's great, right? Yeah. Adam B, bash scripting is fun for bursts of writing. Yeah, it's only fun when you get it to work. That's my opinion. Terry told me. Terry wants you to know that it would have been a lot easier in PowerShell with a Windows server. I love it. What else? So yeah, Sakura's right. You get one of those little Bluetooth devices that has a little robotic finger that goes boop, press the button. Yeah. iSCSI is just as temperamental when it loses its brain. Actually, mostly for the workloads running on it, but what can I say? Next up, I had said to you guys I was going to do a comparison video of PBS and Veeam, and oh, look at that. Here, Adam's right. You could just do it's set your BIOS to always restart after power failure, regardless, and then just put a Christmas tree timer on it. Something tells me that will leave you with a corrupt boot volume, and things will not be good for you. But I think the next video is going to be digging. I'll go full screen here. Let's just go. Ooh. I think we're going to dig into this guy. I'm more I think about it, the more I'm excited about what this little NAB9 Plus will do. I think I showed it to you guys last week, but it's just got a lot of promise. And especially after getting my rear handed to me over my power bill, I feel like this little duder is going to be, I'm sure Game Over Dave's in the chat right now going, yes, more. The downside is it's 2.5 gig and I've got all these high speed connections, but for a starter HomeLab, man, this thing's got the power. Anyway, so the next video coming up, that'll be cool. We should have that up and running here in a couple of days or something like that. I got to shoot some B-roll and then make a script and then do all that kind of stuff. And so we will figure all of that out. And I still have the MikroTik. Excuse me, I almost said the wrong thing. I tried to get the MSA2. They didn't want to send that to me. But I hope it's more reliable than the MSA1, right? Hoping that the switch to AMD is a better platform for them and for all involved. But and it's still the MikroTik is behind me too. I got to figure that guy out because that's a big deal. Oh yeah, the MSO1. Yeah, you had a bad go with that. Last thing, a few more things. Brandon brought this up and I thought it was pretty cool. And I just want to complain a little bit because it's not fair. So we have a fair bit of gamers in the audience, I'm sure. So, SteamOS is now generally available for Linux devices as long as you have an AMD GPU, which makes me mad because I have an NVIDIA GPU. Speaking of the GPU thing, I just got to say, so I was doing some work on getting some NVIDIA drivers installed to do some inference stuff with a local LLM. And after talking to the guys in the Discord and doing some other stuff, I got it working. It's been great. The thing I found interesting and hilarious is when you install the NVIDIA drivers, the closed source NVIDIA drivers into your kernel, your kernel becomes a tainted kernel. And I laughed so much at the term tainted Linux kernel. I get it. It's no longer, you don't get your trusted boot status. You can't use TPM, server encryption, that kind of stuff, but calling it tainted was just like, okay, it sounds naughty. Who doesn't want a tainted Linux kernel? Anyway, so Brandon brought this up because I mean, it's exciting to think that you could build your own, basically, Steam Deck or Steam game system. Like, you can build your own console, basically, as long as you have AMD. And that makes me so frustrated. Like, install the tainted Linux kernel. Do it. Like we should just be able to do that and then have it. But Bazite Gaming PC enters chat. Why, hello. Very nice. But I haven't tried Bazite. That's one thing, actually. That would be one thing that I would like to, if I had time. Bazite. Here we go. The next generation Linux gaming. Let's enhance. Here we go. We can all see that. So, Bazite makes gaming and everyday use smoother and simpler across desktop PCs, handhelds, tablets, and home theater PCs. Sea of Thieves. I played it. I'm not gonna lie. I played a fair bit of Sea of Thieves back in the day. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Mostly just to grief other people. That's all I did was grief people. So, I guess the question is for you Bazite people, why is Bazite better than SteamOS to you? Like, what's the draw there, do you think? Is it because, well, I'm sure Bazite will probably use, am I saying it right? Bazite? Terry, I have a 6600 XT. I'll trade for that. Okay, well, so I mean, but really, does it natively support the NVIDIA hardware? Because that's really the big question. Is, um, I mean, you're gonna have an argument here in the chat about like Arch versus Fedora or Arch versus Red Hat, and I'll just watch it. Watch. Go on, tell me about how your Linux distribution is better than everyone else's. Clicky on download. I mean, maybe some other time I'll play that. I use my Windows PC for video gaming. Hey, this is you can throw a shade email I want. Terry in the chat should be happy that I'm using my Windows PC for gaming. I don't know why he's not a pro on my Windows PC. Yeah. So one last thing, because we're getting close to closing time here. I owe Game Over Dave I owed him this. I've owed him this for a while. So he'd asked me to make a plug for HomeLab Explorers. And HomeLab Explorers is, I like sharing the love when it comes to like the Tom Lawrence once said to me, and I took it to heart. Like, in this game of like YouTube and like this, like home labbing, it's supposed to be like a complimentary, like everybody is, we're not competing, we're sharing. Right. And so like you guys are watching different YouTube channels and you're watching me and you're hanging out and that kind of stuff. So like sharing the love is the right thing to do. This isn't a gatekeeper thing. Anyway, Game Over Day asked me to do a shout out for HomeLab Explorers. You can get there from schoolskool.com, HomeLab Explorers. And it's run by Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee runs that really fantastic YouTube channel called Virtualization How To. I should reach out to that dude. We talk about the same stuff. I should do that. You know what, Game Over Day? Let him know that I gave him a shout out and tell him if you talk to him, like, hey, get a hold of him, and I'll do the same. We'll make it work. So, but he's has a ton of great virtualization content on and self-hosting and everything on his YouTube channel. And anyway, so check it out. It's yet another place to find some, to talk shop, do the whole home lab dance with everybody. So yeah. And let's turn that off. I want to go here. All right, friends, we're getting about that time. It has been my pleasure, my honor to hang out with you and do this. And here's my second plug. If you don't know who we are or who I am, Two Guys Tech, we do home lab stuff. We got a Discord that people hang out on. I really try to pimp that because I really care about making a community. That's important to me. This is, I'm not going to be retiring on YouTube money, so I'd like to actually build a place where people get benefits. So check it out. You can get go to the Two Guys Tech video YouTube channel. Go to the links. You know where that stuff's at. And how about we do this next Tuesday? What do you say? You got anything on your calendar about like 5:30 Pacific time? No? Okay. Well, maybe we'll see you then. All right. Thank you, guys. You upgrade your teeth. Oh, awesome, Terry. That's great. All right, guys. Next week. Thanks for coming. We will talk to you then. Have a great rest of your week. See you later.